The Civic Type R name is synonymous with driving fun. Its latest incarnation is already in its 5th generation and it is already creating quite a hype. But is it still the lovely pocket rocket that we all used to love and thrash? Today we pit her up against the wildest Civic Type R sibling, the Mugen RR, to see if the new car still delivers the thrills and spills. What do you think of the styling? Just look at how much bigger the new car is. The FD2 shape seems to have aged relatively well, whereas on the FK8 there's a lot of scope, angles and curves on there which might take a bit of time to get used to. I don't know about you, but I much prefer this as opposed to this. So first up, in the brand new Honda Civic Type R. The first impression that you get is that it is very solid, very sophisticated and also very European. And the reason for this? Well, they're now building them in the UK and it's going to be sold in the US for the first time. So they need to upscale the quality in order to compete in the global market. The engine is the 2-litre VTEC turbo, which pumps out 320 horsepower. There's plenty of torque down at the low end, but once you get it high up in the rev range with the VTEC, she really does scream. Really can't fault this engine. There's just so much usable power. The diff in the front end seem to be working so well in sync to deliver the power that there's very little torque steer and so much traction going through the bends. You can set it to either comfort, sport or race, which is awesome if this is your daily car. Comfort mode if you are hauling your family around, and race mode for that spirited night drive with your mates. I'm a big fan of the brake pedal. It has a very good hard initial feel, almost like a race car pedal, but also delivers good feeling all the way through the braking zones. The driving position is just so good. You sit nice and low and the seats are comfy yet very supportive. Nicely done, Honda. And the cabin looks so much nicer than the older generation Civics. This has become a luxurious interior. The shifting action is precise and short as always. It's really a very nice car to drive. Now to some features which I'm not so keen on. You have this automatic electronic handbrake and also the auto blip function. But for me, if you aren't able to do a heel hold using an ordinary handbrake and also to do heel and toe properly, then you just shouldn't be driving a Honda Civic Type R. And then we come to the biggest problem of this car. This new Civic Type R now costs the same, if not more, than its European rivals such as the Golf R, Mugen and Focus RS. This car wants to become more like the rest of them. But in the old days, the Civic Type R was the cheaper car, which offered a lot more thrills. It was a totally different animal. We want some product differentiation in the market, but we all know what Honda is doing. This car appeals to more of the world market, so this car will sell a lot more units. It is all down to the revenue, which is to me a shame, because we seem to be missing the Type R boy racer essence. Don't get me wrong, this is an awesome package, even at this price. But why not just buy the European counterparts if the experience is similar? So it's clear that the Honda Civic Type R has matured a lot, but now let's jump into the Mugen and see what the old girl has got. The first thing you notice about jumping into the Mugen RR is the cabin. Everything is a lot more, well, plastic. And the trim also looks very cheap. The only thing worth shouting about are the beautiful carbon fibre Recaro seats. But when it comes to the seating position, I feel very high in the car. It's not adjustable up or down, so I feel like I'm sitting on the top of a van as opposed to driving a sports machine. But with this car, it is all about the engine. It is a 240 horsepower, 9,000 RPM screaming, naturally aspirated inline 4. Mugen achieved this output by tweaking the ECU, giving it high lift camshafts and modifying the intake and exhaust. But unlike the new Type R, this is absolutely gutless under 6,000 RPM. but here we go. Once the VTEC kicks in, it's absolute Armageddon. The throttle response in this car is just so direct, and the VTEC seems so much more prominent than that of the newer car, which has the turbo engine. Each time I get high up into the rev range, it just makes my body sing with joy. The steering offers tons of feel and feedback, and the car feels pointy thanks to upgraded Mugen shocks and springs. Also, this car weighs in at 1,255 kilos, a good 100 plus kilos lighter than the new car thanks to carbon fibre front bumper and the aluminium bonnet. When it comes to the shifting, Mugen have installed their short shift kit, which makes it much more precise and direct, especially compared to the newer model. And yes, this car does have the mechanical limited slip diff, which means if you put lock on when you're in the VTEC zone, she will still understeer. It's strangely satisfying managing the on-off VTEC power as you're coming out of the corners, but when you get it right, it is so rewarding. Almost makes me feel like I'm in an old world touring car going around the Macau Street circuit. Of course, there is no comfort or sport mode in this car, so the ride is always very stiff, which is almost unbearable as a daily car. It is always hardcore. You don't even get a radio as standard, you only get these Mugen racing gauges. How cool is that? This is Mugen's first ever complete car, and they made only 300 of them in this very bright Milano red. Also, this is the last Civic Type R with a naturally aspirated engine, the awesome K20A. In Japan, a pristine example selling today is already more expensive than its new car price back in 2008. So from today on, this car will no doubt be slowly appreciating as more and more boy racers become collectors. The conclusion can't be simpler than this. If you are a true Honda fan and need an all-round sports car, buy the new Civic Type R. If you are a true old-school VTEC fan who doesn't mind a hardcore car and wants exclusivity and collectability, buy the Mugen RR.